Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being the show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Dandadan Season 2, Episode 10. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, this episode we're getting introduced to the character I think I've heard people talk about, like, I know nothing about this character other than I've heard his name, but I don't know if it's even the same character. So until we get an actual proper introduction, because we don't actually learn his name, he's just called Perv throughout the episode, but we'll get to that later. So I'll talk about it then, whether or not he actually ends up being a character, because I assume this is a character I've heard talk about, but regardless, I haven't heard anything about his personality. And so when we got the little preview of him last episode, or rather the post-credit scene with him, I didn't know what to make of it. I'm like, okay, so who are you? And then, like, he's getting dressed and getting ready, and he's acting so cool, and he's, like, got a comb and everything. I was like, oh, your personality is not what I thought it'd be. I thought his personality would probably be maybe more along the lines of Okurum's. But then we see that it kind of might be. It seems like he's a very, like, extroverted person, but only when he's by himself. Which I'm like, hey, this character might, like, I might be able to resonate with this character. I feel like I could be a little more boisterous, a little more, like, blah, and, like, you know, hyperactive, and kind of just, like, not caring and be a little more fun. But the moment I'm around other people, I turn very meekish and quiet. That I'm curious if it seems like that's because he was vibing, he was singing, he was dancing down the street until he got close to school, and then he started getting quiet and he starts mumbling to us and shuts down. So it might be a thing of, like, he can cut loose when he's not around people, but around people he gets bashful and timid. And then we had the really beautiful twist where, like, he walks up and, like, there's Ken. I was like, wait, this is from episode 5 of last season. I was like, so I love a perspective switch where we're like, oh, he's been there the entire time. Him and Ken have been in the same classroom. It's just we've never noticed him in the background. It's probably that thing of, I'm so curious if you go back to season 1 and you get a better scope of the classroom, will you ever see him? Because his desk is in, like, the furthest row on the left, like near the windows, but in the very last seat in the back. I'm curious, could you see him, like, very, like, out of focus in this first season? Or is it going to be one of those things of anytime you ever got the full view of the classroom, he was never there, even though he's supposed to technically be there? Or is it a thing of, no, it's only because maybe he was never in his seat anytime we got the full classroom view? I'm so curious about stuff like that. There's something to kind of think about going back, but it's one of those things like, oh, you're retroactively adding it in. It's funny because it's like, I guess you can almost parallel him to, like, Sentry's story and the, like, once again, I've not seen Thunderbolts yet, so, but, like, how Sentry works in the comics, where it's like, oh, when Sentry was, like, properly introduced, it's like, no, Sentry's been here the entire time in the Marvel Comics continuity, just everyone forgot about him, but he was there throughout it all, type of thing. I wonder if they're kind of giving it that type of energy, but he seems like focused on Ken, but his focus is because Ken got close to Momo. And for him, it's like, no, we're supposed to be the same. So how are you getting around all these girls? So he sees him around Momo. And it's like, yeah, because, like, so it seems like Ken's thing is, like, aliens and the occult stuff. It seems like his shtick is sci-fi. I don't know, like, whether that's all the range is for his stuff, but that seems like to be a distinguishing factor between them. But he's been, I love because they use specifically episode 5 to be the lens, because it makes a lot of sense, because that's the episode they went back to school after everything with Turbo Granny. Their relationship had developed so much in that time frame, and so it becomes, and to be fair, it's like every time, like, they'd be gone from school for long periods of time, so, like, because they were, yes, like, episode 5 was, like, the first day they were, like, back to school, and then, like, episode, was it, like, 6 and stuff was also at school. Then it wasn't until episode 8 that they came back to school, but, like, 7 and 8 was, like, 7 was, like, done in an afternoon, so it wasn't that crazy. And then, like, their interaction with school was always so periodic. I'm also interested to get, because even though we don't get that perspective, let's not forget the whole, like, him and Momo being, like, well, him being butt naked and Momo being down to her underwear in episode, was that 10 of last season? Well, that was the end of episode 9, and obviously that carried over into episode 10. My point is, like, I think in retrospect it makes sense that episode 5 was such a pivotal point for their relationship, because this is their first time back to school, and anyone that hadn't really interacted with them wouldn't have noticed like their relationship developed out of nowhere from them. But it's like in that span from episode 1 to episode 4, they went through so much, so it makes a lot of sense. And so for his perspective, he was following them because he's trying to follow Ken, because he's like, yo, I gotta know what's your secret, dude. And so I love the whole cafeteria thing where like Momo and Ken kept missing each other, but there was also a third part to it where this guy was looking for Ken as well. And then like he ends up being on when Ken and Momo are doing the whole like lamenting on the benches thing, he's across the way from Ken doing the exact same thing, just staring. And he was there when Momo's friends caught them clicking teeth, and he's just like, oh. And so now he's been trying to get Ken's attention, but Ken just kind of goes, huh? And just goes back to what he's doing, which makes perfect sense because Ken's not going to assume anyone in the classroom is talking to him, because no one has ever literally interacted with him. Like the only time anyone's talked to him is, as we saw it get brought up again, when he stumbles into the classroom. The one guy's like, hey, yo, watch where you're going. The girl at her desk is like, yo, like, could you not? Like, and then like the guys later on be like, yo, like Momo heard you like she could hook up with anyone. Those are the only interactions he's really had in class. Everyone else ignores him, So for him, he would never assume anyone's actually trying to talk to him. And I love this guy trying to get his attention, even built like a Gundam, and was trying to show it off, going back and forth between the rows of the desk beside him. And he's like, all right, I guess I'm just going to have to use my cunning and be abrasive. He's like, hey, yo, you're my enemy. I'm talking to you. And Ken's like, wait, what? He's like, yes. He's like, how did you get so close to Momo and also Ira? Like, how are you such a ladies' man? He's like, no. I'm no ladies' man. He's like, what are you talking about? And then Momo comes over. She's, oh, I'm sorry. Like, did I interrupt? And Cap's like, no, you didn't interrupt anything. He's like, oh my God, Okuru, is this like your new friend? He's like, no, I mean, the definition of what a friend is can range, but I guess you could say that we're new friends. And Momo's like, oh, that's so cool. You two look like you would get along. And both of them make kind of the same dumb, like, animated face of like, oh, like, Momo's so cute. And then, like, it's like, yo, Ken, like, we need to talk about, like, your ball being missing. And I love our pervy character, quote unquote. All he can take away from it is, once again, that's just kind of his name because they don't know his name. It's funny considering, like, well, Momo has to call Ken Okuro, even though she knows his name, but it's like, we don't know if Ken's name will, like, trigger her the way it used to. Because no one's outwardly spoken his name since last season. Because, Ira will call him by his last name, but like she'll rarely call him by his full name. And like the last time she did that was during the fight last season in the schools. Like, what was that? Episode 9 was like the last time that came up, So we don't know if Momo still has the same reaction. Probably still does. But either way, my point is, I just thought it was interesting because like this guy's just perf to her because she doesn't know him at all. And so she's like, hey, let's go talk outside of class. And then the class rep is like, excuse me, every time you come here, you're disrupting us. We like to use our break to study, so could you please stop doing it? She's like, oh, I won't do it anymore. Sorry about that. Okay, Ken, let's go outside. We can probably talk about this. And she's like, Takakura, like, if you don't want to, you don't have to go. Like, in fact, if you need me to, I can be the one that tells her no for you. And I was like, hey, yo. And Home Dude's takeaway is, oh my God, he's so popular with the women. They're literally standing here fighting over him. But even I'm having the same reaction. I'm like, you're the class rep. Where were you any other time stuff was popping off in the classroom? Like, you've never paid attention to me until now. In fact, where were you when people were throwing crap at Kid in the first episode and Momo had to step in? Maybe the argument could be like, and maybe we'll kind of get a similar thing in the future with this class rep of she was about to interfere, but then Momo got in the way. I wonder if we're going to find out this is going to be another character that likes Ken, but like feels like Momo's overset. Because it's probably not that case. It's probably someone who's very like serious about their position and they trying to help all the students but didn't realize what Ken was going through because he is such a like keeps to himself character. So she was probably completely unaware of it. And then she feels like she probably doesn't know Ken was being bullied by other people. And she thinks Momo with her aggressiveness and her pushiness, which is so funny considering Momo blamed herself thinking, oh, Okuru wants nothing to do with me because of my pushiness. That now this character's attributing that to Momo being like, oh, you're forcing Ken's in, you're kind of bullying him. And he's, and it's like, Momo's almost like, who the hell are you to tell, like, yo, Okarun, like, tell her what's going on. And it's like, Takakura, you can tell her what the truth is. And he's stuck in the middle. And then you have our guy being like, he says something wiener. Basically, because his takeaway is the way you get girls' attention is you have to talk spicy, as he puts it. But they were like staring at him, and they're like, oh, so you must want to die or something, right? And he's just like, how is this fair? How is it that Ken gets this talk spicy to women and they're okay with it, but when I do it, I get death threats? So when it's all said and done, Momo was pissed. It's like, it's almost like the Ira thing all over again. It's like, who is she to come in here and like even calls her a skank too? It's like, who is she to step to me like that? And even Ken's like, I don't know, man. No one's ever really interacted with me before now. And Momo's like, yeah. She's like, because you're cool. And he's like, wait, wait, I'm cool? And she's like, yeah. He's like, oh my God, I did it. And she's laughing at him, being like, oh, she's laughing because she's like, it's so cute because that's such a you response. Because for Ken, it's like, oh my God, I'm finally cool. The only person he wants to be cool for is Momo. He could care less. He's never cared what other people, nor what other people think, because he's kept to himself. But the only person whose opinion has always mattered to him is Momo's. And so for him, it's like, oh, for you to think I'm cool now. Oh my God, I did it. I'm finally cool in your eyes. It's like, you've been cool in her eyes for a while. This is just the first time she's verbalized it, but she's known for a while. And it's like, you being you is why she likes you so much. And they're just kind of very bashful, and there's home dude spying on them, be like, what are they up to? What are they doing? He's like, you know, it's like, I'm trying to figure out, like, why are they still talking spicy to each other about some golden nut? And you know, it's like, what are they doing in this apartment building complex? And they're looking around, and then he ends up kicking a trash can, and they notice him. He's like, oh, what a coincidence. And then he's still trying to figure out, like, yo, why y'all talking spicy like that? Like, what's going on here? And then they run into the golden ball, and it's just floating by itself. And now, like, Ken transformed. Oh, initially, no, it was, he got grabbed up by wherever it was, and it flung him in. And I love, he's like, oh my God, me and Momo's lips are about to lock. And then Ken transformed and pushed him out of the way, and his face drags against the ground. He's like, I don't even know what just happened just now. But now it's like they're going up against the golden ball, and they're like, it's not just acting on its own. There's something there, but it's invisible. And so it's like Momo and Ken have the challenge of how to deal with it, because it's like, well, they don't know where to properly aim. So even as fast as Ken is, he can't grab the thing, and neither can Momo. And she's telling him, like, yo, look after our bags, you know? And I love that even while they're distancing themselves from him, he's like, wait, why is it you can still talk spicy like that, but I can't? And it's so interesting, too, if you look, the entire apartment complex seems empty, which I think is weird. That might be a major factor to consider. Because let's not forget, like, our introduction to the Seppos, they had a ship in disguise as the moon. This could be an alien ship disguised as an apartment building. Because I even love, like, when stuff is popping off later on, I think it's such a neat detail, and it's a very Okurun thing, where it's like one per character is like swinging from the outside, one character is going through the holes that are between walls of the apartments, and then you have Ken on the outside ringing the doorbell. Because I was like, yo, you're busting through quite a few apartments, and these are empty. So I was like, that should be suspicious. And even Ken like ringing the doorbell, but no one's come out to be like, what's all that noise about? Not a single person. So it has to be like either like, well, we did see for an instant, like when he got lifted up, the area turned green. So this might be like the Seppo thing in last season where they teleported them to like another like reality. It might be a similar technology. So they might be technically in another universe, just like the school situation was, or they still are there in the real world, and then like just this apartment building happens to be empty. So the fact is that the color grading for that one instance when Home Dude was thrown didn't stay the entire time like it did with the classroom showcasing. It was, well, no, because like even because the color grading doesn't start changing like that until episode 9 when they start fighting at different points in time, like the color like of the area changes. But for the most part, like initially with Ken, Momo, and Ira, the area was just kind of like the classroom, but it was like dark outside. That's about it. So, but it still seems like the real world exists outside. So that's why I'm like, it might just be the building itself is like a vacant building disguised as a building when it's actually maybe a ship or something. I don't know. That's my immediate thought. But yeah, like getting back to it, Ken and Momo can't like get a grasp on this thing, and they're getting knocked around, and it's just like, for one, like also like Momo's swinging like that is so cool. And she's asking Ken like, "Yo, grab one of me." He's like, "You sure?" She's like, "Yes." He wraps her legs around her and like has his arms around her, and she like uses her psychic hands like I said, like almost like a grappling hook. Like, okay, like hold on, and she's gonna swing. It's actually really dope how that's done. But and especially like a lot of those narrow like hallways, they're like fighting it on like the narrow like I don't know what you they're not hallways, but the narrow stretches like in front of like the apartment buildings. That little space of like them constantly kind of fighting in that lane of things. Then there's our quote unquote perv who ended up going after this thing for whatever reason, and he gets thrown off the building. Luckily, Momo grabs him, and he's like, "Don't worry, I got this." Because he ends up breaking it down. He's like, "Oh, this is some kind of optical technology that's kind of disguising them." And it's like he's like rushes over, and he's like, "Oh, I'm doing some otaku attack." Misses, but he's like, "Okay, we're coming at it from 3 different angles." And I love that scene where it's like it busts through an apartment. He's running after it, and I think it's interesting when you zoom out because I think that's from Momo's visions because she's like trying to keep track of the ball. You see like a yellow glow with him as well, so that might be implying that there's something there as well. But she's swinging from the outside. Ken's like at one apartment building, and they break through, and all 3 of them are looking for 3 different angles. And while she's swinging, Momo can clearly see it. She grabs it. Ken goes full throttle and headbutts the thing, and sends it flying. And yeah, and it's like, wait, how did you figure that out? He's like, oh, because of sci-fi. He's like, most likely it's some kind of reflective thing, like from certain angles, it's able to camouflage itself because of your eye line of sight. But the moment you look at it from multiple angles, the optical thing can't fully work on multiple different angles. So because of the angle Momo was at, she was able to capture the thing. And it's like, wait, what is this thing? Because it finally it loses its camouflage. And Ken's like, oh my god, it's a kaiju. So I'm like, okay, probably more alien than yokai because just because of the because it definitely gives the same energy as the Nessie situation from last season as well. But I think it is interesting too, and they pointed out, you can't see the golden nut while, I know phrasing, but once again, this deep into the show, you just move on. But you can't see it while it's not camouflaged. Only when it's camouflaged could you see it, which I think is interesting. While they're about to go down and deal with it, the thing transforms and it goes full Godzilla. And it's like full Godzilla size. So I was like, hey, yo, we kaiju number 8 right now, as massive as this thing is. I mean, it's very like Godzilla, obviously with the kaiju of it all. But yeah, this thing is massive, which I was like, ooh, that's interesting. This is like the first time they've ever faced anything of this size. Most things they face, like the biggest thing they've gone up against. Well, no, I had to take that back because they went up against the location-based spirit back in episode 4, and that thing was massive too. But it's because most things are like moderate to like. Because the biggest yokai I say they faced off against would be Acrobatic Silky because she was pretty big. But yeah, all the aliens they faced have been decently big, like the sumo one from episode 2. Not most. Just that one, because the other ones have been pretty medium-sized, or like human-esque size. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fight this thing. Our little mixed match trio. Caught a glimpse of someone else seems to be joining the fray for this fight, because they might call in their 2 other heavy hitters for this. So we'll see how it all plays out. Because I wonder, did they get word to Ira or Gigi about this, like the moment like Momo's friend was at Miwa like showed her the photo of the golden ball. So I wonder, did they get like notices, or will partway through this fight be like Momo texting Gigi and Ira like, yo, we need the whole squad here to deal with this. So I'm so excited to see where the next episode takes us. Once again, get hopefully a proper introduction to our character. I mean, I didn't talk about this earlier. Really, it's very much, I brought up like the whole, like Okurun's Okurun instead of his actual name. So, but I did forget, we didn't learn Ken's name until literally the last, 10 seconds of the first episode is when we finally learned Ken's name. So it isn't that crazy to be like, oh yeah, we're going to learn this character's name until maybe the next episode. I'm so excited to see. Sadly, we've only got 2 episodes left this season, but oh my god, some crazy stuff and more fun stuff is going to go down, I'm sure, but I'm so excited to see what happens next. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye. Bye.